bomb went off in here. All right.
As they can. Let people in.
You ready?
Ready.
Broadcasting.
Are we live?
We are.
Yay. Exciting times. Now we just wait for folks to join.
Oh.
With my screen, I can't see folks joining. Are folks joining?
They are.
Yay. Welcome, folks.
I'm trying to get us live on Facebook at the same time, so.
Nice. Thank you for
Awesome.
being our technology person.
Very much
Awesome.
appreciated.
Can you guys, did anything change with the screen you're seeing?
Mine just went full screen, but other than that.
Okay, but you still see just the slide?
We've got 10 participants.
Wonderful. We're glad you are joining us.
Lisa Vance is there.
Hey, Lisa. I wish I could see, I can't see the participant names. Maybe that's because you're in charge, Christina.
No, she said hey in the chat.
Oh, nice. Glad she's already using the chat feature. Thanks for joining, Lisa. We'll give everyone just another minute to join. Welcome to the Survival Mode, episode 2. Ooh, your sound isn't working. That would probably be on your computer's end if you're able. Oh, well, if you can't hear me talking, that's not helpful. Let me type my answer. Can you all hear the train in the distance?
I was wondering whose that was.
Yeah, the train is going through downtown Johnson City.
Well, that means it'll be hitting, you'll hear it at my house in about 10 minutes.
The ways we feel more connected in a time of quarantine.
Yeah, it's probably headed this way.
Yeah. What do you think, y'all? Should we go ahead and get started?
No.
Are you good on the Facebook end, Christina?
I'm still trying to get it to go. It's just being slow, but
Okay. Well, we can wait a second too, because I'm sure everybody can use a moment to just be still and take a breath.
there we go. Maybe it's.
The babies just woke up from their nap. I hear them in the distance. Can you hear the babies?
No, I can't.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa, for clarifying. Yes, you are all muted as audience members, and you can chat your questions into the chat box. Or you can raise your hand, metaphorically. there's a button you should see that says raise hand, and then Christina can unmute you if you would like to have a voice. Christina,
Yes.
are you okay if we start?
Yes, we can go ahead. I don't know if this is going to work today, and I bet that's could be why someone else had problems yesterday.
Oh, I wonder if Facebook is overwhelmed by all the live action happening these days.
I think Facebook may have blocked Zoom. I'm not sure.
Oh.
That's okay. We can share it on there later.
Absolutely.
It's all about being flexible right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me get back to my other screen here. All right. We want to welcome everybody to our webinar on perinatal mental health in the time of COVID. I am Christina Delaney, and I'd like to welcome our guest speakers, who are Eliza Kiernan and Diana Moreland. Eliza and Diana, would you please introduce yourselves by telling our audience a little more about who you are and why you're here to talk about this?
Well, I'm Eliza. I am a licensed professional counselor. I practice in Johnson City at Grace Point Counseling Center. I also sit on the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance as the secretary. I started working with mamas about 5 or 6 years ago, primarily in substance abuse, and that's when I started to really develop a passion for helping moms and helping them to really find their identity and really develop their own ability to cope with life stressors. As I moved into private practice, I've kind of found my niche in perinatal mental health and working with moms who are struggling with postpartum depression and perinatal mood disorders. I am a mama of 2 that, as you can see there, they are currently 4 and 2, and with my oldest, I struggled pretty heavily with some postpartum and was thankful to develop some resources by the time I had my second.
Thanks for being with us, Eliza. I'm so excited you're here. So I am Diana Moreland. I am the president of the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance, and I am a licensed clinical psychology, and I work in the Department of Psychology at East Tennessee State University. I am a mama of 2 twin boys. They're almost a year old, Everett and Gunnar, and personally have had my own journey with some depression and anxiety during the pregnancy and postpartum. But before my personal experience, really got into this world professionally first, and then it became personal. So my background is in clinical psychology, and I was a child psychologist, and I was working with lots of kiddos. And then I just kept seeing that it was really hard to work with kiddos when they were in families where the caregivers were struggling, and that we couldn't expect caregivers to support kiddos if we weren't taking care of the caregivers. And so I had the privilege of doing a 2-year postdoc fellowship where I specialized in perinatal and infant mental health, really all about mamas, parents, caregivers, babies, early childhood development. And I fell in love with this world of perinatal mental health. So I am honored to be here with all of you today. Zooming out a little bit in terms of the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance and Cherish Mom who are here, you'll hear more about Cherish Mom in a minute. But the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance is a local nonprofit in Northeast Tennessee under Postpartum Support International. And we really are a group of grassroots folks coming together to talk about perinatal mental health, to increase awareness about it, to decrease the stigma around it, and to increase our community's ability to meet the needs to serve families impacted by mental health difficulties in pregnancy and postpartum. And with that, I will allow Christina to introduce herself.
Hi, like I said, I'm Christina Delaney, and you can see my kiddos there. I am the founder and president of Cherished Mom and the vice president of the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance. And I'm also a postpartum psychosis survivor, and that is what launched me into my passion for perinatal mental health and wanting to do more to educate and support families and moms in this area and space. So that you can see my family there, my husband and my two kiddos who are now 7 and 5, and you can probably see me looking at them. I wish you could see what I can see right now, but this is mom life. Um, and so they love helping and seeing what we do and being a part of everything we do as well. So you're going to have to wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Real motherhood.
It's just what it is. So yes, that's a little bit about me, and I'm so glad you all are here, and I'm appreciative of Eliza and Diana sharing their heart and time with us today.
Thank you, Christina. We're so happy you're here and you're doing this incredible work that you're doing with the Alliance and with Cherish Mom. Okay, really quick, how to do the webinar if you're joining us live via Zoom. There's an option that lets you raise your hand. If you raise your hand, we can unmute you and you can talk. We would love to hear your voices and hear your questions and hear your thoughts, so please participate and join us. Everything else can go in the chat box. It's an option, you have an option to chat just to the moderators, that's us, the three of us you see, or you can show your chat to all panelists and participants. And so if you're willing and able, we encourage you to choose that option so everybody can see what you're posting. But if you'd like to privately message us, you could do it that way. And don't worry if you get it wrong, just engage with us today however you can. It'll be more fun if you participate. And we are recording this so that you can watch it later or share it. Yeah. Our guidelines for this webinar are to use this time to be kind to yourself, to be kind to others, and to please engage and participate.
So we know that there's a lot to talk about, so we wanted to give you an overview of what we're hoping to cover today. We want to cover what perinatal mental health symptoms are and how they might be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We also want to go into what you can do if you're struggling with a perinatal mental health problem, specifically coping skills that you're able to do at home right now, because let's face it, we're not all able to leave or go places. We also want to focus in on what you can do if you know someone who is struggling with perinatal mental health problems and how you can reach out to them and support them. And lastly, we want to talk about the treatment options for perinatal mental health in the time of COVID.
Lots to do. And in this very strange time of pandemic, I imagine a lot of you have more that you're doing than you're used to. In this weird time of like slow down, but speed up, and work, but don't work, and take care of the kids and take care of the house and take care of work. And so we wanted to be intentional in this space, recognizing that even though we have a lot we hope to talk about today, we all need to take moments to slow down and to be still and to breathe. So we wanted to start with just a brief guided breathing exercise together to give us all a moment to slow down and be intentional about being grounded in this space. So I will invite you to join me in a guided breathing exercise. I encourage you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. I will close my eyes because that's how I focus and slow down. If it doesn't feel comfortable to close your eyes, I just invite you to gaze softly at something in front of you. And take a moment just to get settled in your body by noticing where your feet connect to the ground, where your body connects to the furniture. Adjust your body so that you feel comfortable and supported. Maybe relaxing your shoulders back and down and away from your ears. We tend to hold a lot of stress in our shoulders. Maybe relaxing the space between your eyes. Relaxing your jaw. Noticing if you're tensing any muscles or clenching any muscles and relaxing those so that your body is relaxed and supported. And we're going to do a 3-part breath where we breathe in to a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and exhale for a count of 4. I encourage you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in, I encourage you to try to inhale that air into your abdomen so that your stomach fills up with air like you're filling up a balloon. And as you exhale, imagine that balloon is deflating and you're pushing the air out of your stomach. Now, if any part of this breathing doesn't feel comfortable to you, I just invite you to breathe in a way that feels comfortable and is intentional. So we're going to take 3-part triangle breaths together. So we'll slowly inhale through the nose for 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And slow exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Last one, slow inhale, filling up that belly with air. Hold, and slow exhale, pushing all that air out. Maybe even sigh a little bit. Let it go. We'll slowly start to reground in our bodies by paying attention to those points of contact between our feet and the ground, our body and the chair. We'll slowly start to notice the sounds around us. And when you're ready, if your eyes are closed, gently open them and come back to this space and this call. Thank you for slowing down and breathing with me. Christina, you are muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Thanks for helping to remind us to slow down. I know I don't do that enough. And as we transition into our Q&A section of this webinar, I'd like to remind everyone that we welcome your comments and questions into the chat box. And if you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you so you can ask your question or share your response live with us. We're going to start with the basics, and I want to ask Eliza, what are the common perinatal mental health difficulties?
Absolutely. So one of the things that you'll hear us say on this webinar is perinatal mental health versus postpartum depression or postpartum. Perinatal is kind of an umbrella term that covers pregnancy, the postpartum phases, and all of that in general. And so it's just a larger term that covers a larger breadth of time, as well as more disorders rather than just the postpartum depression. Postpartum depression does fall under that umbrella. So just so you know that is what we're talking about. We're just going to use a different phrase when we talk about it. So the common diagnoses that you see when you deal with perinatal mood disorders are anxiety, depression. We see a lot of insomnia, not just exhaustion from babies' different sleep patterns, but true inability to really just get into a sleep rhythm and fall asleep. Intrusive thoughts or unwanted thoughts. This can be flashes of unwanted scenarios that create anxiety or panic. PTSD due to birth trauma or trauma surrounding pregnancy, bipolar disorder, and psychosis. So these symptoms can be present in someone's life prior to pregnancy, but the main thing that is important to recognize is that these symptoms go to a whole nother level in the perinatal mood disorder phase. The volume's cranked up to 11, if you will. It is a whole different platform of intensity than a mood disorder that you would feel when you're not in the perinatal phase. And so that's kind of this common diagnosis symptomology that we're going to be talking about in this next hour. So Diane, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
You did a beautiful job overviewing it, Eliza. Thank you. I was just realizing that we've got 3 professionals, but we've got 3 mamas who have been through their own journey with perinatal mental health. And so I was just realizing, like, we could probably share a little bit of what it was like for us, or I will. You don't have to if you don't want to. But for me, in pregnancy, I think the first clue that something was wrong was that I had a symptom called anhedonia, but what it just means is a lack of joy. I had a relatively healthy pregnancy. I was high risk because of the twins, but the high risk parts were going okay. And I had a good support system and everything kind of in place for my dream to have babies. And I still just couldn't feel happy. For no good reason. And I would just wake up and I'd feel really sad and really down and really blue. Then I'd feel really guilty that I felt sad. So I had a lot of sadness, a lot of that lack of joy, and then a lot of guilt about that I wasn't enjoying it more. And then with that, like if you think about waking up and feeling sad, not having anything to look forward to, just because of my mental health, not because there wasn't anything really truly to look forward to. And then guilty, then that kind of all culminated into stress and irritability that was coming out a lot, especially in my close relationships. So that's a little bit of what it felt like for me in pregnancy, some of the stuff that clued me into something wasn't right.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my symptoms hit really post delivery, very much. I've always been a very anxious person. I hear that a lot when I'm working with mamas too. It's a very common phrase. But again, everything got amped up to a level that was just not manageable. And I would have these fears and I felt like I could just see them happening. These intrusive thoughts that felt like I couldn't manage them, like I had no idea where they were coming from. And I, for a while, wouldn't even tell anybody that they were happening. I wouldn't name them. I wouldn't, because I was scared that I could make them happen, and learned quickly how to manage that, how to give it a voice and take away the reality of it and make it a very, irrational thing and kind of take away its power. But when you go that long with that much anxiety and that much fear of things happening, you begin to try and control and try to manage every 5 seconds of your day. And it's exhausting. It leads to not being able to sleep. I checked on my baby for the first 3 months with a flashlight in his sleep for like every hour. Symptoms that just are not something that needed to be hidden. And my husband was a wonderful support through all that, and things that at the time didn't know that I should probably go talk to someone other than just my husband. So it's a hard time.
It sounds really hard. I appreciate you sharing that, Eliza.
Yeah, absolutely. It amazes me, the moms that, just like us that go on to support, raise awareness and support other moms, which is exactly what we're doing right here, to make sure that other moms are taken care of. So I'm going to move on, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So Diana, what's unique about perinatal mental health in the time of COVID and this quarantine?
Well, when I think about what's going on right now in our world, nothing is normal. Like normal has been flipped on its head. And then when I think about pregnancy and postpartum, nothing is normal. So I just think about how in the best of times, pregnancy and having a new baby is something that's really, really hard. And now we're in a world where there's so much uncertainty and so much fear, and there's isolation, that it makes sense to me that folks are going to be struggling a lot more with mental health symptoms in general, and especially in pregnancy, because pregnancy is this time of hormonal changes that make us more vulnerable to mental health difficulties. It's a time of physical changes, social changes, and it's a time when we really need a village. And right now, our physical village is on pause. It's hard to feel connected. And so I think we're going to see a lot more folks struggling with mental health difficulties right now. I think we're going to see the nature of anxiety in pregnancy and postpartum attach itself to COVID-related stuff. So it's really normal for new moms during pregnancy and postpartum to have a lot of anxiety of, will my baby be okay? That checking Eliza described, to kind of checking on baby. And now, in addition to just the normal fears that every mom has of like, is my baby going to be okay? Now we have COVID-19, which is this very real threat that folks are worried about catching if you're pregnant or your child catching. And so I expect to see a lot more worry about that. And that makes sense, right? Like the world is worried. And so I think it's going to be extra hard for mamas and families to discern, is this normal worry in response to COVID-19? And is this abnormal worry where it's something else and I maybe need a little bit more help? And so I think really thinking about if it's causing problems, if it's getting in the way of being able to do the things you need to or want to do day to day, while also recognizing that a little worry is okay, that a little sadness at the loss of not getting the pregnancy that you dreamt of or not getting the postpartum period that you dreamt of because of COVID, that makes sense that folks are going to feel disappointed or feel sad that this isn't what they thought they were signing up for. I also think there's certain symptoms of things like depression that I think we're going to see more of that won't necessarily be symptoms. So this like, is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Question I think is going to come up more in the face of COVID. For example, one of the symptoms of depression, we often see people socially withdraw and isolate and kind of go inward. And now we're being asked to go inward and withdraw to keep everybody safe. And so I think recognizing that feeling isolated or lonely is a pretty normal feeling right now. And that it's pretty normal for folks to stay in their pajamas all day and to take fewer showers. Like the things that we're all doing in this COVID-19 world are things that historically we might look at and say, oh, that person is depressed. They're staying in their pajamas. They haven't taken a shower in 2 days. They aren't going outside. And now part of that is just our reality. And so I think, again, coming back to, is it causing problems? Is it distressing to the mama or the family? Is it getting in the way of the mama or dad? Because dads can get these mental health symptoms too. And we actually know dads are at greater risk for perinatal mental health difficulties than we thought before. And especially if mom is struggling, we know co-parents are more likely to struggle. So it's all caregivers, it's not just mamas. But just thinking about, is it causing problems? Is it getting in the way of what we need to or want to do? Is it causing distress? And so really just kind of holding those factors in mind. All right, I'm talking a lot. I also want to say, I'm going to ask Eliza if there's anything you want to add, but before I do, I want to encourage our participants to use the chat box to say ways that you're seeing perinatal mental health manifest, maybe ways it manifested for you or for folks you work with, and any ways that you're seeing it change given COVID-19 and this quarantine, or ways that it's being impacted. I would love to see some responses in the chat box that share your experience of this.
We have somebody raising their hand.
Awesome.
So I'm going to allow them to talk.
All right, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Allie.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I just wanted to clarify. You said that that we actually are finding out that fathers suffer from postpartum depression more so than we had thought. Are they suffering from actual postpartum or from the effects of their partner that might be suffering from it and getting the anxiety or the stress from that? I'm not sure what you meant.
Great question, Allie.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in general, in the general population, we know about 1 in 10 dads will experience postpartum depression symptoms. And there's a lot of reasons why they're at greater risk for depression postpartum than other times of their lives. And I think it has a lot to do with the stresses associated with having a new baby. And then we know that that number goes up, meaning dad's risk for postpartum depression or anxiety is higher if mom also has it. And you can imagine that that's probably because there's greater stress in the co-parenting relationship. Maybe mom is struggling to do some of the co-parenting task. And if somebody you love is suffering, you suffer. So it's a little bit both and. Dads can have postpartum without mom having it, but if mom has it, dads are at greater risk.
Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense.
You're welcome, Allie. Thank you for asking.
Of course.
All right. Eliza, any other thoughts you're having about perinatal mental health in this COVID time, just kind of ways that we might see it?
Yeah, one of the things that just comes to mind with the uniqueness just in pregnancy and preparing for childbirth is the way that birth plans are changing and the way that mamas are trying to just make sure that they are prepared and are trying to be in contact with hospitals and things like that. There's tends to be a lot more anxiety in the late pregnancy stages right now because they want some, concrete answers as to what can I expect. And day to day, we're not always getting those because of the way things have changed drastically over the past couple weeks. And so some of the anxiety is coming from, like you said, they want the birth plan, the things that they would expect to be a normal part of their pregnancy thing. And there's some grief about not getting what would be normal. And then there's some anxiety about not even getting those finite answers, which are very common. And like you said, is there an ability to say, okay, I'm able to just kind of move to a point of being okay with this not being answered, or is this causing significant distress? And that's where we have to find that line of when it needs to be addressed.
Thank you both for answering those questions. Eliza, Diana spoke about how it can be hard to know what's normal and what's abnormal. So a question I get a lot is, how do you know if it's the baby blues or something more?
Absolutely. So first thing, regardless, if it's baby blues or if it ends up being more intense mood disorder, if it does not feel normal for you, if it does not feel normal for the mama that you're reaching out to or the mama that's coming to you, that's okay. They are reaching out. You are not feeling okay. There is no threshold of symptoms that you have to have in order to get help. If it's just the baby blues, okay, that's great, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about why baby blues are kind of a positive impact on the 2 weeks after birth. But regardless, if it doesn't feel okay, there is no shame in finding help and support to try to make sure that you are getting what you need post-delivery. But the baby blues include things like crying, feeling overwhelmed with motherhood, feeling uncertain in decisions about motherhood, sometimes just uncertain in decisions about how to run your household. Now that you have a baby, things just kind of feel a little off. The most important factor is that the symptoms feel mild. They are not to the point that you can't function. And the predominant mood during all of that time is happiness. It's not that you are constantly feeling those things, that you're mostly feeling happy. And then you have these periods of feeling not okay. It starts out 2 days after delivery and it peaks at about 3 to 5 days. And then it should start to decrease. And by 2 weeks postpartum or post-delivery, you should start to feel significantly better, and things should feel better each day. If you're noticing that it's not feeling better, that it's getting worse, that's not the baby blues. That's a mood disorder. Regardless, and like I said, regardless of if it is getting better and you just kind of want to talk to somebody, but if it's not getting better, that's when you need to talk to somebody, your support person, your OB, a therapist, whomever, a good friend. That's when you need to talk to somebody. The baby blues are a positive reaction. It's the hormones from birth and the hormones to the bonding with baby, helping your body just kind of re-regulate and get everything going back into normal. It's a positive balancing, which is great. Mood disorders are not a rebalancing. It's kind of a chaotic shuffle of hormones. And like I said, it's not going to get better day by day. It's actually going to get worse if it's left untreated.
Thank you for that. So this seems like a great time to transition into our discussion of coping skills. How can a parent who is struggling take care of themselves? For example, we had one who might write in to say, I'm stuck at home, I can't go anywhere, and I'm overwhelmed. All of my coping skills involve me leaving the house. What can I do?
Yeah, that's a real thing right now, as we all do this from our house. Well, first, I will encourage folks to check out the first episode of our Survival Mode Parenting in the Time of COVID webinar, which we did last week. It's recorded on cherishmom.org, and it was all about parental self-care in the time of COVID, how to take care of ourselves as parents while we take care of our families. I will do a brief summary of that because I just don't think we can emphasize the importance of taking care of parents right now enough, as they, again, try to do it all from home. So last week we talked a little bit about the importance of naming this time that we're in, naming the fact that we're in a pandemic, naming the fact that we're in a quarantine, and naming the fact that this is not normal. And then to normalize the feelings that come up. So it's normal to feel antsy. It's normal to get cabin fever. It's normal to feel sad or disappointed that we aren't getting to do the things we thought we'd be getting to do this spring, that our kids aren't getting to do the things they thought they were going to be doing. It's normal to feel frustrated with the expectations put on us during this time. It's normal to feel frustrated that your kids are around more and presumably more demanding. Kids have a lot of needs, and that's beautiful, and it's part of being a parent, and it's also okay that it's hard. So normalizing it, and then lowering the bar that we set for ourselves with the expectations we set. I've heard a few folks say it now, we aren't working from home. We're stuck at home working. And that's different because you don't get to stop being a parent. That's a full-time job. And then there's other things that demand our time and energy too. So just really recognizing that we need to be kind to ourselves and lower the bar we set for ourselves as parents or the parents we're supporting. I also, in that webinar, talk about the importance of recognizing the shoulds. These are the thoughts that we all have that tell us we should be doing something and that lead us to feel a little bit guilty if we don't. So for example, right now, as I hear my babies in the distance, I'm thinking I should be taking care of my babies and not letting them cry, but they're with their dad, they're okay. I should be cooking more natural foods for them. I should be cleaning the house more since I'm home more. I should be doing more to help others. I should be calling my mom more. Like, there's a lot of shoulds that go in my mind every day, and those shoulds often just leave me feeling guilty. And so recognizing the shoulds and talking back to them and really practicing self-kindness and self-compassion with ourselves, knowing that the kinder we are to ourselves, the more energy we're going to have to take care of others. Also really encouraging caregivers and mamas, dads, whoever's taking care of the kids, to be very intentional with our time. I think now more than ever, free time is something that we need to be really thoughtful about how we spend it, because free time, meaning time when the kids are asleep and we're awake and we are not in full-time parenting mode, is precious. And I call it the bedtime to bedtime, okay, from when my babies go to bed to when I go to bed, which sometimes is about 4 hours and sometimes is about 1 hour, depending on when they go to bed and how sleep deprived I am. But being really intentional with how I'm spending that time has helped me recharge myself, to have the emotional resources I need to be an engaged mama the next morning. And so I was doing things pretty mindlessly. Like, for example, I would just kind of watch mindless TV or scroll through social media, through Facebook and Instagram, kind of check emails, not be very thoughtful about how that time was being spent. And then I'd get to bedtime feeling kind of drained and like I didn't get what I needed out of that day. I didn't feel relaxed. And so just recognizing the importance of noticing what recharges us, noticing what restores our emotional balance, and being really intentional about finding small times to do that, and giving ourselves permission to do that. So that's a little bit about what we talked about. If you want more of that, watch the webinar. And then Eliza, I know you support a lot of mamas who are struggling with this very thing right now. And I'm curious what advice you're giving and what they're finding helpful, given that we're all in this quarantine together.
Yeah, I work with mamas of all stages, pregnant, newborn, 3-year-old, like on up. Like it's not just like this specific age of kiddos and then it's like, okay, all better. Like this is a gradual process for some moms. And it's okay that during this time you feel like you just have like forgotten everything, or like all the coping skills you had are just gone and you're just like, I was doing it, but now it's gone. And like Diana was saying, we're not working from home. We're not choosing to be stay-at-home moms now. We're stay-at-home dads. We are literally been told, stay put. There was no like pre-planning. And so it kind of felt like a panic of, I don't remember the coping skills. You've been put on the spot, and that's okay. So one of the things that I've been working with a lot of my clients is going back to basics, going back to, the routine basics of how do you structure your day? How do your kiddos structure their day? And your day doesn't have to be identical to what they need. It's okay, how do I get what they need? And then how do I find parts in my day that fit into their day that also give me a break, that let me feel rest when they have rest, or let me, relax when they're having outside time, things like that, and kind of finding that balance. One of the big things that I've been encouraging, because I've heard this a lot, and I think it's just an ingrained mentality when we're so used to getting up at 6 a.m., getting out the door, getting all the kiddos dropped off at the right places, getting to work on time. Everyone's like, I'm not getting up till 8 o'clock. We're sleeping in so late. And my response is, okay, slow starts are okay right now. A little bit later in the day is not going to derail everybody. Just a little bit of a slower start, letting everybody have a moment to relax and slow into a flow that gives you a moment to take a breath and say, okay, what's today going to bring? Versus hitting the ground running at the same anxiety-paced scale that you had to do because there was a time frame. And the same for the evenings. There's no t-ball. There's no basketball games. There's the things that we're grieving that we don't get to do this spring are also the things that are allowing us that space to go, oh, we can have full family dinners, or we can just relax and have pizza in the living room. Things that we weren't getting to do, and things that may make us feel, guilty or not good enough are actually things that we get to take advantage of during this time. And having that mentality of, oh, I'm getting to take a moment to just breathe. the routine is important because mamas who are struggling with feeling depressed because, sorry, mom life right now.
No, it's okay.
Supervised.
This is real life.
Mamas who are struggling with feeling depressed or feeling anxious because a lot of their coping mechanism was being able to go out for a bit of the day in order to feel balanced are feeling like they can't function, like they have no grounding, they have no momentum. And so there's no purpose in cleaning your whole house in one day. There's no purpose in meal planning for the whole day. It's how do we take small bites? How do we create a routine that allows a little bit of your routine, that gives you a little bit of momentum of tasks, that keeps you from staying in bed all day, that keeps you on task with the kiddos, something that gets them outside, that makes you have to go outside. Little things, not monumental homeschooling packets, you know, that make you feel like you're super mom and then you just feel like you're just not doing enough. There doesn't have to be this massive balance of really amazing days and then really low days. It's just this balance in between of small little nuggets. And then it's finding these times, right? These 5-minute chunks, these 10-minute chunks, sometimes even hopefully 20-minute chunks where the kids are just calm. Or even like Diana was saying, in those free time moments in the evening when they go to bed and hopefully you're not so exhausted you're falling asleep right afterward. You find some intentional things that you enjoy. Reading. Mine is Sudoku. I will bust out a Sudoku because I'm just like, yes, this is some calm, quiet, and no one's trying to color on my Sudoku page, right? It's just some very intentional time where I can focus on my stuff. What do you enjoy? Where can you focus in for yourself in those moments? And it's about giving yourself grace and being good enough. Good enough isn't about doing all of the amazing things. Good enough means everyone is fed, everyone is healthy, everyone is enjoying their day. Not enjoying their day because you built them a water park outside, but they're enjoying their day because you're there and you're present. So.
Those are awesome suggestions. I know yesterday my kids were playing in water outside and they were enjoying that. So we have a lot of folks on this call who are helpers, partners, parents, or direct care providers. So let's talk a little bit about what folks can do to support a friend, family member, or client who may be suffering from a perinatal mental health problem or complication. For example, one husband wrote in to say, I'm worried about my wife. We have a 6-month-old and a 3.5-year-old. She's been struggling with anxiety and depression with this pregnancy, and since the baby has arrived, now that I'm working from home and I can't leave the house, I've really noticed how much she's struggling. She seems worried about everything. She has trouble even getting out of bed in the morning and is often tearful and overwhelmed and isn't eating as much as she used to. I don't know how to help.
My heart goes out for this dad. I also am wishing I brought my partner in on this call so he could talk a little bit about what it's like to be a significant other of somebody struggling with this stuff, because it's so hard. It's so hard to see someone you love suffering and not know how to help. And so I think my first thought is just the fact that you notice and you care is huge. And that is the act of love, is noticing and caring. And then turning to the helpers who can help. So we're going to talk a lot about who are those helpers in a moment. But first, I want to offer some guidance and kind of what to do in the moment before you engage the helpers. Something that is really helpful for a lot of folks struggling with mental health difficulties is to have a name for it, to be able to name the feeling, to be able to speak it. And sometimes we think if we say it, it's going to make it worse. But that's not true. It makes it worse when we ignore the elephant in the room. So give it a name and talk to your significant other about what name that is. It might be depression, it might be anxiety, it might just be you seem really worried or you seem really stressed, or how are you feeling, and let the mama name it. But name it, give it a name, and validate it. And to validate it means to say, it makes sense, it's okay. It might not be normal in the sense of what we expect somebody to feel, but it's normal to that mama in that moment. It makes sense that she's feeling overwhelmed. It makes sense that she's feeling anxious. It's okay, and you're there to support her. And then engage the village. It takes a village to raise a baby. It takes a village to be pregnant. It takes a village just to be an adult, I think. Like, we all need help. And so engage the village, recognize that none of us have to be in this alone. Even during this time of physical distancing, we don't have to be socially distant. And so think about ways to engage the village through connecting with video chats with family members or friends, connecting with meal supports. There's like meal trains and things that can be done in a COVID friendly way. Thinking about kind of ways to take some of the pressure and stress off of the mama's plate. There's peer support groups. So we're going to talk soon about what are some of those peer support groups where mamas or helpers helping mamas can engage in peer support and get connected with other folks. And yeah, I guess now's the time where I can explain those. Does that feel like a good time? Okay, so there's a lot of options, and one way to kind of, if there's one go-to place where you're going to go say, like, I just need to know more, I need help, we recommend Postpartum Support International's website. This is an international nonprofit organization all about mental health in pregnancy and postpartum, and mental health for mamas, but also dads and co-parents and caregivers and people of color, and just really a beautiful organization that does so much across the world and in our community for mental health and understanding the symptoms and then knowing where to get help. So on this website, you can find fact sheets about the different type of perinatal mental health symptoms and ways to assess for them. You can find a directory of how to find local providers or groups to help you. They also have a hotline that you can call to ask questions of. And we'll put all this on our Facebook page later, but that hotline number is 1-800-944-4773. So that's a hotline number you can call if you or anyone you know or love is struggling with mental health difficulties during pregnancy or postpartum, and they can help you understand what's going on and help connect you with resources in your area. Of note, if you or anyone you love is having suicidal thoughts, which for some of our pregnant and postpartum mamas, that is something that happens, where they start to have thoughts about hurting themselves, that there's a different number to call for that, and that's the National Suicide Hotline, and that's 1-800-273-8255. So those are some of our kind of national resources, but we also have some really cool regional resources if you're in the Northeast Tennessee Appalachian area. And Christina, I feel like this is a perfect time for you to talk a little bit about Cherished Mom, what it is and the resources it provides and how people can connect with that.
Yeah, so Cherished Mom is dedicated to educating and supporting new moms and families, caregivers in the community around perinatal mental health. So the way that we do that is we have educational videos on our website that are available to anybody and everybody. You can send moms and families in our direction, point them there. We also have printed materials that anybody can use with really good stats and brochures and handouts that have good information there. We have support groups right now that are all virtual for our local moms, and we've also partnered up with other organizations who have more support groups, which you can go to themomsupportgroup.com to find more information about that. So there's about 2 or 3 support groups a week that we're offering right now. And we have our box program that is still going on, but we're not going to have box pickups for until we can meet in person for those, because I usually meet everybody in person for those box pickups. So moms can go to education support on our website and go to box program and view all the educational content of our videos, and then have an incentive with a free self-care box. So that is all that we have going on with Cherished Mom. We're about to launch other things with free support and tangible options for new mamas as well. So stay tuned, and you can hook into our Facebook page and website to keep up to date with that. So
thank you so much, Christina, for all you're doing with Cherished Moms and for letting us know about those resources.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing I know is that we hear a lot is when it's one thing to know where to go for help and like know about these websites or know about these groups, and it's a whole nother thing for a dad or a co-parent or a partner to know how to talk to mom, or like how to breach the subject, like what to actually say to get a mama or a co-parent to reach out for help. And so Eliza, I'm wondering if you can offer a little guidance on how partners can do that. How can you get somebody to reach out for help?
Absolutely. I mean, there's never a way that you can force someone into treatment, but there are ways that you can help make it easier for them to get to treatment. One of the biggest things is not preaching or lecturing at them, not making it so they feel less than, but making them feel supported and encouraged by the idea of having treatment as an option for them, and being able to have a plan for them, right? And oftentimes, if mamas are in this place of not being able to function already, they're already in this pit of feeling like they're not doing well, they're dealing with mom guilt and things like that. They may not have the energy to go out and find resources on their own. So being able to research for resources, whether it's contacting the OB, contacting a local therapist through the PSI directory that you know is trained in perinatal mental health, reaching out to, like I said, the PSI directory will list OBs and others trained in the area, a therapist that you can present them with and say, here, I found this for you. Would you be willing to go here? Could I help call with you so we can make an appointment? I'll help take you. Calling the hotline with them sometimes is helpful. I know in my experience with clients, sometimes just sitting down with the person who's struggling, they've had success just by having that warm handoff of saying, let me help you. It removes that decision fatigue. They're already having to try to sort through so much on their own and deal with a baby. Trying to figure out a way to take care of themselves is just asking too much for them right now. And so being educated on what they need and also just providing, kind and confident solutions for them is one way. Now, that's not a guarantee that they're going to say, yes, here I go. But it's a better step than just leaving them to find it out for themselves. They're more capable of having someone with them and attending and following up with what they need than if someone just says, they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Do it with them and kind of for them and with them. Thank you, Eliza. All right, y'all, somehow we're reaching the end of our time. Time has flown by. If you have final questions, be sure to put them in the chat box. And I'm going to briefly summarize kind of treatment options, and then we're going to let you know what's coming next. So when it comes to perinatal mental health, there are really, and you're thinking about treatment, there's a few options, and everything's a little different in this COVID-19 world. So first I'll say on Cherished Mom's website, I do about a 10-minute video where I talk about evidence-based treatment for perinatal mental health. So if you want to know specific types of therapies and what they help with, I encourage you to go over to Cherished Mom's website and watch that video. Outside of that, there's kind of different formats. There's group peer-led groups, which are the things we've mentioned, like Cherished Mom and the Mom Support Group. And this is where mamas who have had their own lived experience with mental health challenges in pregnancy or postpartum facilitate a group of mamas struggling with that. So it's not necessarily mental health professionals, it's just folks who have experienced some of their own struggles, who've gone through training to lead groups, coming together and offering a supportive space. So that's one option. And there's Cherish Mom, there's the mom groups, and there's Postpartum Support International also does a group online for free. All of these are free that I've mentioned so far. So Postpartum Support International, Cherish Mom, and the Mom Support Group. There's also, depending on where you live, there are mental health clinics that offer mental health groups, support groups led by licensed mental health practitioners. So for example, Eliza, am I remembering correctly that your practice offers kind of a perinatal mental health support group and you're a licensed mental health practitioner?
Yes, I do. We are currently on hiatus because of COVID,
Okay.
but there are options right now that we can accommodate for.
Awesome. And then in addition to group offerings, there's also individual therapy, and a lot of mental health providers are offering virtual, kind of video-based, just like this, mental health or behavioral health services. So please reach out to your OB, your primary care provider, or your local mental health clinicians. Again, PSI International, the website, postpartumsupport.net, has a directory of providers who specialize in perinatal mental health challenges. And your OB might also know. So don't be afraid just to reach out and ask. And then finally, there's the option to use medication. And I'm not a medical provider, but I will summarize very quickly that there are some medications that have been shown to be relatively safe in pregnancy and while breastfeeding. And there's a lot of information that you can find out there, but one trusted source is Postpartum Support International offers a psychiatric consultation line for providers. And so prescribing providers, such as your primary care provider or your OB, can call this number to get advice from experts on prescribing medications during pregnancy and during breastfeeding. So just know that that is an option and that there are folks specialty trained in this, and that you can let your provider know about that resource. And we'll put all of these numbers and links on the Facebook page when we're all said and done. And I know we're a minute over, so I'm gonna say thank you for listening, and we're really excited next week that we're going to have a certified nurse midwife here to answer questions about pregnancy and delivery in this time of COVID. We're so grateful for Cherish Mom and the Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance for hosting this. Christina and Eliza, thank you so much for being on here and doing the work that you're doing. And you can watch all of these recorded webinars on cherishmom.org/survival mode. And with that, I will say thank you and please take care.
Bye, everybody.